You ever get that feeling where you look at a piece of machinery and realize it's significantly smarter than you'll ever be? I was reading the specs on the new HCL CamWorks update this morning, specifically the Swiss type machining sink, and I felt like a guy trying to understand a symphony while I'm still over here playing the kazoo.
Well, to be fair, Tiger, most things are smarter than a kazoo, but Swiss type always sounds so fancy. Is it just a regular CNC lathe with a better passport, or is there actual soul in the machine?
It's the precision that'll make your hair stand up. We're talking about synchronizing the main spindle and the tool posts so perfectly it's like a high-speed ballet. In the old days, you'd be happy if your tolerances didn't have a gap wide enough to throw a cat through. Now, these machines are spitting out parts for medical tech or aerospace where a micron, which is basically a ghost whisker, actually matters.
It sounds expensive and intimidating. Speaking of expensive, did you see the news about Van Am? They're dropping $1.5 million on an expansion in Missouri.
1.5 million. That's a lot of drill bits, Alex. But honestly, it's a shot in the arm for the heartland. It tells me that despite everyone saying manufacturing is moving to the cloud or whatever the buzzword is this week, people still need real heavy things made of actual metal. You can't 3D print a skyscraper yet.
Actually, funny you mentioned that. The new profile of the electrical contractor report says electricians are starting to lean into 3D printing. Not for skyscrapers, obviously, but for custom brackets and enclosures right there on the job site.
No kidding. That's wild. When I was starting out, if you needed a custom bracket, you spent 20 minutes over a vise with a hammer and a prayer, probably skinning 3 knuckles in the process. Now these guys are just hitting print while they eat their lunch.
Exactly. But it's not all high-tech gadgets and easy street. There was a sobering piece in Electrical Contractor magazine this week. It's about something you're famous for lecturing me on, verifying the absence of voltage.
Look, I'm only stern about it because electricity doesn't give you a do-over card. I had a buddy, smart guy, real sharp, who flipped a breaker, saw the lights go out, and reached right into a junction box. What he didn't realize was that the house had a back-fed solar array that was still very much awake. He got a wake-up call that nearly shook the fillings out of his teeth. You have to treat every wire like it's a live rattlesnake until you've proven otherwise with a meter. If you don't do the live dead live test, checking your meter on a known source, then the circuit, then the source again, you're just gambling with your pulse.
Okay, message received. No rattlesnakes in the junction boxes. Let's pivot to something a little less lethal. The 2026 Maker Market data is out. If you're trying to sell on Etsy or at craft fairs, the perfectly smooth look is out. People want functional art. They want to see the thumbprints in the clay or the tool marks on the wood.
That's the I actually made this tax. It's funny, isn't it? We spend 20 years trying to get our finishes as smooth as glass, and now the customers are saying, no, I want to see that a human being struggled with this for 4 hours.
Well, they're paying for the struggle, Tiger. Throne mugs and hand-built planters are going for $60 or more. But here's the kicker. The real money isn't just in the physical object, it's in the story and digital downloads.
You're talking about the teach a man to fish model. I love that. If I build a coffee table, I can sell it once. If I write down the measurements, take some photos of the joinery and sell the PDF, I can sell that while I'm asleep. It's high margin, low stress, and nobody complains about shipping costs on a digital file.
Plus, you don't have to wrap a PDF in bubble wrap.
Amen to that. Dealing with courier services is the quickest way to turn a serene craftsman into a man shouting at clouds.
Speaking of projects that require a lot of patience and probably some shouting, did you see Jay's Cali decking project? He's finally at the finish line.
I saw that. Jay's a machine. He went with the hidden fasteners, which is a choice that makes your back ache just thinking about it, but man, the result is worth the penance. When you look across the deck and you don't see 5,000 silver screw heads staring back at you like a sheet of graph paper, it's a thing of beauty. It looks more like a hardwood floor that just happened to grow outside.
It's definitely a pro move. But you've been doing some pro moves in your own shop recently, haven't you? I saw you putting crown molding on a tool cabinet. Really?
Listen, I know it sounds like I've got too much time on my hands, but there's a method to the madness. Besides making the shop feel less like a dungeon and more like a studio, that trim work serves a purpose. In a wood shop, sawdust is like water. It finds every crack, every crevice, every tiny gap behind a cabinet. You leave a 1/4-inch gap between your cabinet and the wall, and in 6 months, you've basically started an ant farm made of walnut dust. That molding seals the deal. It keeps the mess on the floor where the vacuum can actually reach it. Plus, it makes me feel like a fancy gentleman while I'm covered in grease.
A fancy gentleman in a canvas apron. I'll make sure to tell the listeners to address you as Sir Tiger from now on.
Please don't. My ego hasn't got the structural support for that.
We've covered a lot today. High precision Swiss tech, not getting electrocuted, making money on Etsy, and Jay's epic deck. What's the North Star for the folks listening today?
I think it's about the bridge between the tool and the person. Whether you're programmed $1 million CNC or just trying to get a clean cut on a piece of trim, the magic only happens when you stop rushing. We're so obsessed with finishing that we forget the doing is where the lessons are hidden. You don't learn how to be a craftsman when the project is done. You learn it when the blade is dull, the measurement is off, and you have to figure out how to bridge that gap. Take the extra 5 minutes to test that circuit. Take the extra hour to sand that texture. That's where the pride lives.
That's a good word. Don't just build stuff. Build the skill to fix it when it goes sideways.
Precisely. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with a hand plane and a very stubborn piece of white oak.
Try not to let the oak win, Sir Tiger.
No promises. Catch you all next time in the den.